What's up, everybody? Rabid Hedgehog here, and this is going to be the 3,400 mile review of the Indian Chieftain Limited motorcycle. That's right, Indian Chieftain 3,400 mile review. I know I haven't really announced that I had this bike. I know if you've been watching my videos as recent, you'll see in the intro and everything that this bike has been showing up, and also the AGV Sport stuff that's been showing up there. It's the pictures of this bike that I am on, and this is the bike that actually replaced my MGX 21 and my CB 1100. And I know that one hurt. Getting rid of the CB 1100 really did hurt, guys. I really love that bike. I still really have a big heart for it. It's just that with everything going on and the way life was going back in November, I just felt like something weird was going to happen and felt it was time to downsize a little bit. So I took those two into one motorcycle, and that way I came up to the conclusion of getting the Chieftain. And it took me a little bit to choose the Chieftain too, but they offered a pretty good deal on this one. It was a leftover 19, 20s were already coming around, so there was incentivizing and some other things, and that's why I ended up with this old girl here. And this was back in November of 2019, so like I said, already 3,400 miles. Everybody, oh, that's not that much, that's chump change. Yeah, I put probably 7,000-8,000 actually on two wheels. It's just that there's three bikes in the garage, so this one shares time with other machines, and I still think I'm going to probably hit over 5,000 on this bike before November runs around, because I've been finding myself utilizing this motorcycle more and more and more as time has gone on. And that's kind of the crazy thing, because everybody, well, bagger's not really suited for metro area, urban brawling or anything like that, and that's the shocking part about this particular motorcycle, is that it is very much an urban brawler. It does very good in this kind of environment, even though it is a little bit hot, toasty, and traffic laden and all that. To be honest, the Chieftains are very light on their feet. They do very well in traffic. They do very well throughout the city. They have plenty of storage. You can see I was leaving you can see I was leaving Best Buy back there. And the reason why I was leaving Best Buy is I was picking up more stuff for the channel and my computer and stuff like that. And it's all in the saddlebags, you know, because why not? So I ride to one of the busiest places in Oklahoma City to show this thing around town, and you can see I'm balancing it just fine between the rear brake and throttle and everything. This bike has it all. Does super, super well in traffic and in heat. I mean, right now you can see the temperature's up there, probably more 94, 95. Heat index is probably close to 102, no doubt. But, you know, it is what you feel in the sun is what the heat index is. In Oklahoma, we have all that humidity, and we get that firmly all over us, and the bikes feel it as well. And I will say, it's shocking that this big air-cooled engine, everybody always has stated that the Indians have run hotter than Harley counterparts and other things like that. To be honest, no. The early ones, yes. I will say yes. The early 111s, before all their trickery and changes and stuff in the 17 model area and 18, where they changed it all up and started changing where they do things and how it does things and the cylinder deactivation and ride modes and everything, that really did change the attitude of the Thunderstroke, and it really has helped these bikes handle the heat. And that's one thing I have to say is Polaris listens to the people who ride their motorcycles and people who ride in general. And that's where I'm becoming to appreciate their products more and more. And I'm not paid by them in any way. I'm not endorsed by Indian or sponsored by Indian or paid by Indian or any of their dealerships or anything like that. I simply am just an everyday rider that is becoming more appreciative of a company that actually listens to us and what we want to do. And I know that Harley listens every once in a while because they have their big thing and they talk about the Rushmore Project and how everybody was in the Rushmore Project and we listened and did all that and we added all this stuff. And yeah, they did a lot of ergonomic changes and things at that time and added in their cylinder deactivation modes and other things as time went on. Of course, the Milwaukee 8 came out, other things. But Indian comes around in 2014, late 2013 for 2014 model year. And I mean, if you guys remember, they had those big blocks, kind of like the Victories, with rubberized buttons that were so hard to operate with your gloves. And I had a complaint about that. Like, this is not the best way to do this. Harley's little joysticks and stuff were the way to go. And you could see that as it evolved, they got less on that. They went more to switches, and they finally got to this setup here, which to me is probably one of the finest ergonomic control systems of a motorcycle in place at this time. You've got two little flaps on the back. On the left side, you can see I can control my screen there. And on the right side, if you guys ever want to know how to get to your playlist whenever you have something on there, if it's Bluetooth or whatever else, hit this right one, and it will go into your screen. As you can see right there, you can then scroll by using the left stick here, and you can either press in on it to select, as you can see, or, and I'm doing that with the left to back it up again, or you can use that to scroll down and use the right stick or the right little flap, and then that's what I normally do to control that up and down, because I like the haptic feedback of having the little paddles and stuff on the back versus trying to click in on that stick. So I do like the fact that there's two different ways to control. There's usually a redundancy somewhere. So there's three technical control surfaces on this screen. There's touch, there's the little paddles, and then of course the big buttons on the bottom. So you can scroll through everything here, or you can scroll through everything here. It's got so many different methods. Of course, you can control it here too, and of course if you want to go through here and you go back to here, you can control volume there, you can control volume there. You can pause it there, you can pause it here. You can sit there and you can see my glove does control it. So you can see that you can go through, you can hit the list and all that, gloved hand and all. And you can see I can actually control that, or I can fling certain screens, there we go, that will allow me to change what I can see. I can also change my widgets just by pressing that button there, and I got all this extra widgeting right there. So there's 3 sets of screens you can do that you can customize your widgets. My favorite is just having the information right here, which is basically the vehicle information, vehicle status, engine hours, all that fun stuff. I like watching that the most. I don't really play with the stereo as often, but it's a very good stereo. You put it in 2 or 3, you can hear it just fine at 75, 80 miles an hour on a windy day like this. So that's kind of the amazing thing. You'll see now that the cylinder deactivation has come on. It is, like I said, pretty warm today, and you can see that it kicked on, and that's kind of the amazing part. It doesn't have as much heat as you think it would for being a big air-cooled engine. This bike is, of course, close to 18, this is 1818, I think, cc. But you can see, when you're an owner, you learn how to have your leg. When you're at a stop, I still have my foot on the back brake. You can see I have a heel toe shifter on this one. That's the only modification I've done so far. You just get used to how to sit on it, and as long as you're sitting still, if your leg's kicked out like this, the heat just goes right by it, and it doesn't actually bother you. So it doesn't cook you. I mean, for a hot day like this, you'd think I'd be dead. To be honest, I'm actually not that bad. Pretty comfortable right now. Now, I will say that I am disappointed that stock bikes do not come with a heel toe shifter. So that's the first thing I did, literally. I bought the bike and had a heel toe shifter installed on it within a week. Because I have to have a heel toe shifter on a touring bike with floorboards. I just don't like trying to lift my foot because I don't feel like I have the leverage to shift, especially that high front end shifter to clear the floorboard that I do when I'm on a peg. So I'd rather prefer having the heel toe where I can just slide back, lift my foot on the ball of it and tap it with my heel. Much more easier to control that way. And then of course downshifting by lifting up off the hill and stepping down. There's a lot more. You can tap your feet anytime, front and back, but you can't pivot every time when your foot's flat. So that's the advantage of that heel toe shifter with a floorboard. So I do have to say a ho-hum is that all stock bikes should seriously, if they have a floorboard, have a heel toe shifter, not just the option. It should be manual, or just there, not a manual. It should be standard. So riding around today, as you can tell, I'm right back on the highway, and I'm going highway speed This bike handles highway perfectly. We're running around 2,800 RPM at around 73 miles an hour. Just hanging with traffic right now. And going through the regular city, this thing is a ball through the city. It's so maneuverable. It's a shockingly maneuverable bike. I'm sorry, I have a pike pass in my pocket and I don't know if it's catching. But I'm trying to make it catch. I pay by tag too, and this one does that, but I'd rather not get the notice first and then realize, oh, this bike is registered, kind of deal. All the joys of living in Oklahoma. But yeah, it is it's a great bike for everything. I use this as a primary commuter. I use it all the time. You can see it's pretty dirty right now. I mean, probably you can see the windscreen is nasty, pretty dusty up here. That's because I was in rain the other day, or at least trying to get in the rain. I went to work. I was going to do a test on a jacket, the AGVSportUSA Flex, and that particular jacket, I believe is waterproof, but I wanted to check and catch some rain. So it rained through the day, on and off, and then when I got off work, all I caught was sprinkles on the very back end of some stuff passing through, so I was very disappointed. So it just made the bike more dirty. Of course, I ride it in any condition anyway. I usually carry in my left-hand saddlebag over here some rain gear, so if I have to, I'm ready to switch over. But it has plenty of storage to do that stuff. It has plenty of storage to run errands around town, and I really love running errands around town with this bike. I take it to the store. I purchase lots of fun things. I get groceries in it. You can load it with tons of 2 liters of soda, whatever you want, or a big giant gallon of tea or milk or whatever. It actually handles that just fine. It's actually remarkable how much storage those little bags have. I mean, they don't look big, but they can handle pretty decent amounts of stuff. And like I said, riding it for 3,400 miles, you get to know a lot about the motorcycle that you're on. And man, this is by far the most well-rounded motorcycle I have owned in terms of what I can do with it. Heck, man, I went over on the MSF course. There's one that was painted in a parking lot, and I started playing around with it. And I actually was able to do the big box and all that, or not the big box, but the little box with it. You know, the dreaded double U-turn, and this bike actually handles that perfectly and very well balanced. It has a very good feedback between the clutch and the throttle. It's not snappy, it's not terrible, even in sport mode, and I did it in sport mode. It handles it just fine. And that's the coolest thing about this bike, is how well it does things. And right now it says that average is about 45.5 miles per gallon. That's actually fairly correct. I've actually got 45, 46. The light on the fuel is a little too generous, and I think sometimes I've had this bike all the way into the 200s in mileage before needing gas before. I was on a solid 4-hour ride, 4.5-hour ride. Didn't get off the seat, didn't stop, didn't do nothing, just a nice solid 4-hour. Got over 200 miles before I needed fuel, and it was still at about 4.2, 4.3 gallons when I put in, and it was averaging about 46, 47 to the gallon at that point, and I'm sitting there going, well, that's fantastic. It's got a pretty large tank on it, and that's the one thing about having the MGX 21, and that's the thing. I really do miss my MGX, guys. I really didn't want to get rid of it, but there was 2 factors: fuel mileage and insurance. The insurance on that bike could not be defined. They did not have a way to basically figure out what it was. So all I got was the base rate plus like 2 small discounts. I didn't get like safety discounts or anything like that, because they only defined it by engine size, weight, and power, and they didn't define it by everything else it had, like the traction control systems or anything like that, because there was no way for them to define that motorcycle. So it costed that bike alone was near $100 a month with full coverage insurance, whereas at the current rate with the 3 bikes I have in the garage now, my CX500, the Scout, and this bike, they're all the same level of coverage, same deductible, same everything, and I pay $82 and some change with the same company. I didn't even change company because no other company could define the MGX, and it was actually progressively more expensive as I tried to find a different company because nobody else had the ability to figure out what that bike was. So it was that much of a substantial difference that I needed to really, like I said, I needed to step down in size. I just felt something up in November, like, hey, I might want to step down, cut some costs, and be ready for more things to come. So I wanted to cut the insurance cost out and cut that. Started quoting different motorcycles, quoted several different touring. Like I was even after a Goldwing at a point, a 2018 or 2019 Goldwing, and you know, I chose this one over it for the not only the insurance cost, but because of just how well this one does. And the fact that it more matches my style. Boy, I love Goldwings, guys. I really want a Goldwing at a point. But that's just not quite my riding style. This long, lazy, lumbering V-twin is more my size and my riding style. I will say, though, that I do need to take a Goldwing on as long as I ride as this one, because I have to say that another ho-hum about owning one of these bikes for is, you know, the 3,000, 3,400 miles now that I've had it, is that the seat sucks. The original seat on the older Chieftains was better than this one. I don't like the gunner seat or whatever they call it. Not a fan of it after 3.5 hours to 4 hours. You definitely want to get off of it and get your rear end back in gear, get your legs shaked out and back running again. But I don't have any problems with rider fatigue in terms of wind protection. You can see I've got that pretty nasty wind coming through, and I'm not being buffeted. The way that this fairing is designed, it actually streamlines the wind really well, so I don't have any side-to-side motion or anything. The bike is very, very well planted, so I don't have that typical buffeting like Harley-Davidson fairings. I don't know if anybody on a street glide has felt this before, but if you're riding one and you're straight in the wind, you could feel a little back and forth in the handlebar because of the way the fairing is and the way it catches wind. This one is a little bit more streamlined. I know they're similar looking, but the way it's designed, it just pushes that air better. And you can see that this thing is just solid as a rock going on the road and highly stable. I mean, I would love the Challenger. I love a fixed fairing, don't get me wrong. Or Road Glide even has that fixed fairing. They do go smoother through the wind overall because you still have less weight on the fork altogether, and you're not putting as much weight on everything else. So you do get that better handling and better everything else. But this one does very well. Of course, this is a traditional fork setup. Traditional fork setups are no big deal if they're done right, and this one's done right. It handles our broken roads very much perfectly. I will say the Fox suspension on it did have a drop in it in terms of how many inches it was. I think they took an inch out of the travel a couple of years ago during the redesign, and to be honest, you don't feel it. This Fox suspension on the back is really good. Of course, it's an air monoshock. To access that, you pull open this left cover over here, and it has the air first off the chart, so you can put your pressure in there, so it tells you what your pressures are, and of course the valve stem that's in there. And of course, I actually, in the saddlebag on the left side, I actually have the pump that came with the bike that I can fill it up with on the fly. So that's a pretty good overall thing to have. I will say, yes, the emulsion shock on the Harley with the spinning wheel, a little bit better. Of course, you still got to remove the saddlebag to access that, which is kind of a bummer too. So you still have to remove something just to adjust the suspension. They need to fix that somehow or another one day. No adjustment by pulling a panel open or anything like that. Just open the saddlebag and there's your little stem, and you can plug it in. Of course, that makes it harder to work on the bike, but somebody's got to figure something out eventually to get to where we're not removing panels or saddlebags to adjust suspension. We just wanted to adjust the suspension, guys. We just want to adjust the suspension. Make it easy on us. Both the all-American companies. I mean, if Honda and Moto Guzzi can have their wheel right there next to your thigh, you can do it too. If your Softails can do it, or some of your other bikes can do it, how come the big ones can't? Figure that out, guys. Definitely need to figure that out. Figure out your stock seats too. Figure out a stock seat that's like a sundowner seat or whatever you want to call your long range seat or whatever. Make it where a rider who's going to ride 24 hours a day can have a comfortable seat for 24 hours a day, not 4 hours a day. Those are the biggest complaints I have for these machines right now, is definitely the seat right when it's brand new and everything. But I mean, overall, if you're going to use it as a commuter, it's a perfect seat for being a commuter. You're not going to commute for over 3 hours. You're not going to commute for over an hour. But it's very comfortable for your short spurts around town. It's very comfortable to sit on while you're in traffic. It has that nice little backrest you can kind of back up to. It does very well. So, I mean, it's a great seat for a stock seat, but I think it needs a little bit more still. I think it needs a little bit more cushion, a little bit more something. Especially for the passenger. Passenger would really like more cushion for their ride as well. That's the one complaint my wife has being a rider on this bike, is that it's not the most plush for a passenger. Definitely more for the rider. Definitely needs a backrest on it. I need to get that done some point or another, but I will have to complain about the cost of that accessory. If you want the backrest, it's almost, I think, $700 for just the pad and the bar. I think that's a little bit too steep for just a piece of chrome and a piece of leather with some padding in it. I think we need to work on that. And if you want to add the back rack to it too, the luggage rack, it's almost $1,000, and that's just, I think that's asinine. So I gotta say, Indian, you guys got to work on your pricing scheme a little bit more so than what you're doing here, because you're a little bit too much like Harley there. I don't want to pay for Harley stuff to not have a Harley. I mean, I already get more on this bike than a Harley ever would have. I have the power window, which is awesome during like changing weather. So if it gets hotter, especially in Oklahoma, we could start at 32 degrees in the day and be 90 degrees in the middle of the afternoon. We really can. We can pull that off here. To be able to adjust it from cold weather to hot weather on the fly, amazing. Cannot do that on any Harley Davidson. Even a CVO doesn't even have that option. Whenever you go to fill up the air, the valve stems on these bikes are 90 degrees. You can't do that on a Harley unless you buy it or get a CVO at $40,000. The power locking saddlebags, you can't do that on a Harley unless you get a CVO for $40,000. I mean, there's so many things that the Indian already comes with that the Harley simply does not have. And that's a nice thing, but guys, don't price your accessories the same way. You're not Harley. Please don't be that stupid. That's why Harley's suffering. Right now you're taking up the slack, but there's going to be a point where that even stops, and you'll be in the same boat if you don't watch it. And I really appreciate this bike that you have here. Been appreciating it more and more and more as I ride it. And I was appreciative of the MGX too. I gotta say thank you to Motorcycle Works for that motorcycle once again. It's a fantastic bike. I got several thousand miles on it. Just like I said, the insurance cost and the fuel, about the only things that killed it for me. But this has not been a bad replacement. No, it doesn't turn as well. No, it doesn't seem as quick. Surprisingly, it's quick, but not as quick. It's hard limited to 111 miles an hour, whereas the MGX would get up there, put it that way. I'll just say it'll get up there. You know, there were some things that you could do on the MGX that was absolutely more fun, but this has been more my riding style, and I'm not disappointed. I am sad I don't have the MGX and the CB. If it was a perfect world, I'd have all three of them, because they're all good for what they do. They were all really fantastic. And but guys, if you're really looking for a Chieftain and you're looking to do something like what I do, if you're looking to commute to work, if you're looking to ride a long distance, if you're looking to, you know, go in and out of city traffic and all this stuff, I mean, you can see we're up there in temperature. We're going through traffic. We're stopping and going. The heat's not bad at all. It's much better than the earlier version. The ergonomics are perfect. It's so easy to control this bike just on the fly. I mean, you can go in there if you need to choose your songs. You got all this stuff, and it's all, I don't even have to look at it. I just know it's there. And I can control everything. The only thing I got to read is, you know, what it is. So, that's the cool thing. I mean, and you can see I could control it in both ways. You can see I got a low fuel notice. It asks if I want to put it on GPS. It does the same thing Harley does. You can look up your dealers. You can look up all that. It's all pre-stored if you want to. I don't really care. I don't use the GPS that often, if ever. I don't think I ever have used it, to be honest. But I never thought I'd be a bagger guy. I never thought I'd like all this technology, but to be honest, it does make riding a little bit more pleasurable, because you can look down and see the time. You can look down and see the bike and what it's doing, 45 rear pressure, 42. You don't have to worry about, did I just hit that and is my tire going flat? Do I need to pull over and look at it? You can look down and watch that live. It's pretty quick acting. If you're losing temperature or pressure or anything like that, you can see that. Pretty live action there. That's pretty good stuff when you're on a tour. It takes a lot off your mind, so you can enjoy the ride a little bit more. Never thought I would say that. Thought it would add more to it. No, it actually took a lot more off my mind. Allows me to ride the ride I want to ride, and allows me to go longer distances. So it's been a fantastic motorcycle for me. And as a long range ride, 3,400 miles, like I said, my ho-hums, the seat really needs work. They need to do something better on it. Accessory costs, I mean, the heel toe shifter wasn't bad at all, but just getting a backrest is so stupid expensive. I mean, they needed to work on that. The 116 kit's not badly priced overall. But I mean, there's some things that's just like, why? Because it's the most popular thing and they know it would sell no matter what they do, but don't do that. So really, that's my only complaint, is accessory cost and a seat. And the fact it didn't come stock with that heel toe shifter, which it should. So at any rate, this is the Rabid Hedgehog, and if you guys really want to look into an Indian Chieftain, take a look at them pretty hard. Ride your ride though. Ride what you want to. Find the bagger that's right for you. Find the motorcycle that's right for you. I really do enjoy having bikes that are small and agile too. This bike is pretty agile for as big as it is, but it's good to cut around town on the Scout sometimes. It's good to cut around town on the CX, but it's amazing what you can do with this bike versus some of those others in its class. Absolutely amazing. And I also want to give a shout out real quick to AGV Sport USA. AGV Sport USA has supplied our team with the jackets and gear that you see that I'm wearing right now. I've got to pull over into the shade right here real fast and boink, jumper into neutral here. And you'll see the 130 flannel in James color. That's what the plaid is. Mercury gloves. These are actually gloves I bought. These are not the ones they supplied. They supplied me Mayhem. I bought an additional Mayhem and some Mercuries to go with my original set. Mercuries are a little bit lighter weight for summer. I've really been enjoying these during this ridiculously hot time. The Metro jeans are awesome, guys. They look like regular jeans, but they are armored. There's Kevlar in the high end sliding points, and also a moisture wicking liner on the inside too. Fantastic riding gear. Thank you once more to AGV Sport USA for providing Rabid Hedgehog's team with the gear. Not paying us. We're not on their payroll. We were told to give an honest opinion, and guys, it's much more comfortable to ride with their gear. It's designed by riders. They've been around since '85. They're bomb. They're out of Texas. I'll put their description and links down there, and that way you guys can check them out. So at any rate, keep that shiny side up, folks, and we'll catch you on the next ride.
What's up, everybody? This is the Rabid Hedgehog. We once again want to thank you for watching our videos. Please like, share, subscribe today, and if you like what you see, mash that notification button so that way you get our latest videos and notifications live and on the spot. We also want to thank our dealership partners, Indian of Oklahoma City, House of Kawasaki, and Motiv Works Moto Guzzi, who is also our motorcycle mechanic. We want to thank them for allowing us to ride their rides. We are not paid in by any way by any manufacturer or dealer. We just get to be men and women with opinions. We also want to reach out to our sponsors and thank them. We have Law Tigers Motorcycle Lawyers. These motorcycle lawyers are mostly nationwide and can be reached 24/7 at lawtigers.com or 1-888 868-0208. We also want to thank our newest sponsor for gear and the things that you see us wearing, AGV Sport USA. They are out of AGVSportUSA.com in Flower Mound, Texas. We also want to thank Doug Crawford and AMSOIL for protecting our machines with the latest in lubrication technologies. He can be found at usasynthetics.com or 405-388-6170. And also for Derek Enloe and Associates Insurance Company, he can be found at 405-261-1010. Once again, everybody, keep that shiny side up, and we'll catch you on the next ride.